All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Municipal Lead Reporting webinar hosted by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, Division of Housing and Community Resources. My name is Gavin Rozzi. I'm the Director of Data Center Administration here at the division, and it's my pleasure to be here this morning. For today's webinar, we're going to cover the legislative background, a quick demonstration of the Municipal Lead Portal, and some of the strategies that the department is undertaking to provide technical assistance to facilitate municipal inspections as required by the law. So facilitators on our end today, we have Abigail Delacruz, data analyst intern from my team. We're also joined by Sherry Malnack, Assistant Director of the Division of Housing and Community and Resources. We're also joined by Zin Leo Lee, Program Specialist from our division focusing on lead programs. And we're also joined by our colleague Marie Daniels from the Division of Codes and Standards. We're happy to answer any of your questions about the portal today. And I just want to get into some introductory remarks. The launch of the Municipal Lead Reporting Portal represents a significant step forward for the Department of Community Affairs' ongoing efforts to ensure safer, healthier communities in New Jersey. This portal embodies our commitment to leveraging technology to streamline and enhance the efficiency of municipal reporting and lead-based paint hazard management. And I want to say at the outset, two of our important guiding principles have informed the development of this portal, and those are stakeholder engagement and data-driven decision-making, two very important things that guide our efforts here at the department. I want to say at the outset, this portal represents our initial iteration of this initiative. We believe that in the near future, as we work with municipal stakeholders and external partners, we are going to be developing a roadmap for future refinements and enhancements. We welcome your comments and input throughout this process. This portal in the initial iteration, I can tell you, was developed with extensive input from a variety of stakeholders, cutting across municipal leaders, health officials, and community advocates. By engaging these stakeholders from the outset, we're looking to address both the real-world needs and the need for creating an ongoing feedback mechanism. Towards that end, we are committed to maintaining open lines of communication with all stakeholders, and also, speaking to our commitment towards data-driven decision-making, this portal represents an important step of moving beyond just data for compliance, but using data to create a feedback loop so that folks that are facing lead-based paint hazards can be connected with important services through the department's facilitation of the lead remediation and abatement program. And we'll hear a little bit more about that later in the presentation. So let's talk about our goals for today. By the end of this presentation, you should understand the legislative background and policy considerations of Public Law 2021, Chapter 182, and the reporting obligations that it imposes on municipalities. After this presentation, you should be familiar with the current progress and initiatives related to the department's efforts to facilitate lead-based paint hazard inspections and remediation in New Jersey. We're going to provide a demonstration of the Municipal Lead Reporting Portal as it exists today, and we're also going to provide a demonstration of the department's roadmap for future development in this area. At the end of the presentation, we'll be able to take any of your questions or comments that you may have. So we're going to open up with the legislative background. So Public Law 2021, Chapter 182, which just came into effect this past July, requires municipal inspections for lead-based paint hazards in certain pre-1978 residential rental dwellings. The inspections must be performed at tenant turnover or within 2 years of the law's effective date, whichever is sooner. In scope for these requirements include single-family, two-family, and multiple dwellings. Municipalities with permanent construction enforcement agencies must perform the inspections. Others must be contracted with a DCA certified contractor. What we're seeing in many municipalities so far is that a lot of municipalities choose to engage third-party contractors to facilitate these inspections. Written into the statute as well is that a $20 fee per inspection must be remitted to DCA, which is deposited in the Lead Hazard Control Fund. Now, I want to be clear from the outset. There are many exemptions that apply. Here at our level at the department, we have provided certain lists of properties and maps and other data tools to help facilitate which properties we believe might be in scope for these inspections. But ultimately, the burden on determining whether a property needs to be inspected falls with the municipality. And ultimately, the municipality and the local enforcement agency will have records such as the lead safe certificate, existing landlord registrations, and other records that they can cross-reference our tools with in order to make the final determination of whether a property is in scope for these records, these inspections or not. Additionally, specifically in regard to multifamily dwellings that fall under the Bureau of Housing Inspection jurisdiction under our Division of Codes and Standards, if they have been registered with BHI for 10 years with no lead violations at the last inspection, the cyclical inspections required under that law, they are also exempt from that requirement. Specifically if they've been built past 1978 as well. And I understand that BHI maintains their own list of exemptions. And I see we had a question in the chat. We're gonna get to those questions at the end in the Q&A. So if we could just save the questions for then, we would be happy to address them. So, talk a little bit about our municipal lead reporting portal. The portal that we've developed is the department's approach to facilitating compliance and implementation with this law. We've developed it as a paperless, user-friendly process to facilitate municipal compliance. Our intended end users of this portal are the municipal lead contractors themselves, as well as the municipal staff that are responsible for implementing it on their end. I can tell you in terms of the technical platform that we've used to build this form, we're using a platform called SimplyGov. SimplyGov is a government workflow automation platform that's very easy to use. Many public sector agencies have implemented it, and we have used it internally for many of our internal business processes here at the department. This municipal lead reporting portal is the department's first public-facing deployment of a SimplyGov form. And we feel that it allowed us to rapidly stand something up that meets the requirements of the legislation while also providing an easy-to-use interface. We are also in the process of engaging different stakeholders in the lead reporting process, whether they be municipalities, the contractors, or other folks that are concerned, in order to explore options for moving past our default model of one property per form. So right now, the default model is one property at a time. As the inspections are performed or shortly thereafter, staff go ahead and enter that information into our portal. We receive the information on our back end, and we're able to facilitate both compliance with the law as well as when lead is found, taking action to connect those tenants and other affected parties with our various lead assistance programs. And we welcome your feedback. This is the first iteration of something that we're going to continue to improve as both the business need and stakeholder concerns evolve further. So let's take a little look at the portal itself. Let's stop our slides for a second, and I'm going to share my screen. So this is the Municipal Lead Reporting Portal. It is under our Division of Housing and Community Resources website. It's natively integrated with the main DCA website, and it includes basic fields of information. You are able to move through each tab during the submission process. And in order to avoid duplicative collection of data, we've added certain conditional logic to this form. So you can tell if you're either a municipal staff member or if you're a contracted lead inspector, then we provide a separate space for the contractor's information. So just very briefly, we collect the information of the staff member that's submitting this report on behalf of a particular county or municipality. You drill down through the interface here to select which municipality you're reporting data on behalf of. And then we're really mainly interested in both the property information and the results of that inspection. We provide a drop-down menu for the type of property. We're interested in knowing whether or not the property is owner occupied, and based on that, that will determine whether we're collecting separate occupant or tenant information. We're interested in collecting the tax map identifiers of the property, the block and lot. And this field right here performs something that's known as address pre-population. So what this is doing on the back end, in order to ensure that we're collecting accurate information, this is performing validation using Google Maps on the back end. So if I type in our address right here, 101 South Broad Street in Trenton, just like if you've used some of these websites for making online orders or looking things up, you click here and it will pre-populate those fields. So we've designed this to be as minimal of a burden as possible when collecting this data. And then the next step is the owner information. Here, there has been a little bit of confusion, but we're interested in both the first name, last name, and company/legal entity. If it's a legal entity or an LLC that owns the property, an ongoing concern has been, there's these LLCs, but sometimes we need to actually get in touch with who their registered agent or who is ultimately responsible for those premises. So it is important to be mindful when completing the form here. And then any information that we have available for the contact information for the owner we're seeking here. The last and most important part of this portal entails the inspection results. We have made these a series of simple yes or no questions. Were lead-based paint hazards found in the residence at the time of inspection? Was a lead safe certificate issued? Yes or no? We believe also in future iterations of this portal, we may be able to facilitate the generation of the actual lead safe certificates. Right now, it is a form fillable PDF that is promulgated pursuant to existing provisions of the administrative code. We believe that once we are able to tighten up some issues on the workflow automation side in future iterations of the portal, that will also be able to facilitate the generation of these lead safe certificates on behalf of municipal users. And lastly, we're interested in knowing if children were present in the residence, just a simple yes or no question. There is a vast portfolio of research that has been published by academic researchers indicating that childhood exposure to lead-based paint hazards and other sources of lead can result in some significant health complications for younger folks. And that's why it's very important in terms of using this data for action. We will be keeping track of and operationalizing on our end where we believe children are facing lead-based paint hazards so that we can target remediation and assistance programs to those who need it most. So that's the municipal lead reporting portal at a glance. And I'd like to stress to you, this is our initial iteration. We have heard some of the concerns out there about bulk data upload and other concerns. What I want to emphasize is that we had a few competing goals in designing this portal. One, we had to contend with the limitations of the state IT environment. As many of you may be aware, as a state agency, we have to follow all New Jersey Office of Information Technology, all New Jersey Office of Homeland and Security and Prevention guidance pertaining to cybersecurity. And this was the quickest way that we were able to stand something up that has a paperless process that allows us to have real-time visibility and data in a user-friendly format for the municipalities. So we certainly welcome your comments and feedback. We welcome ways that we can improve this. We're looking to build this alongside our local and county partners. And this is the portal as it stands today. So moving forward, I'd like to talk a little bit further about some of our future initiatives associated with this. So I'm just going to get our slides back up. So The rest of our presentation at this point is going to really hinge on our technical assistance for municipalities. As a part of the department's commitment to providing technical assistance, regulatory guidance, and stakeholder engagement, we have developed a number of data products that we feel are going to be very helpful for our municipalities. And I want to say at the outset, one of our goals here was meeting the municipal staff where they are. We recognize that there is a spectrum of comfort with some of these data-driven and technical tools. So on the low end, we've created just simple PDF-based lists with static maps and listings of the properties that we feel might fall within the scope of this law based on the data that we have available from our level. On the other hand, we've also created some interactive data products in Power BI that both handle real-time reporting of the results themselves, as well as more basic options. So at the outset, I want to talk about the analysis that my office, the data center, has undertaken in support of this initiative. So what we did, our team performed a basic analysis using the state's Mod 4 property tax assessment database. Now, I will, kind of hedge a little bit here. There are many parcels within Mod 4 that were missing valid years. This is information that is entered by the local tax assessor's office. It's facilitated by the Division of Taxation within the Department of the Treasury, and the county tax boards also play a role. So this is not necessarily a DCA database, but based on the scope of Mod 4 as a statewide resource, we feel that this represents a pretty good proxy for mapping out exactly where lead-based paint hazards are really prevalent. So what we did is we ranked the count of buildings that had a residential or apartment use code in Mod 4 that were constructed with a year of construction prior to 1978. Anything prior to 1978, when lead-based paint was banned, is presumed to potentially fall within the scope of this law. So these numbers that are reported here do not necessarily represent the true number of units with lead-based paint hazards. That is a number that only the municipality would be able to figure out, because ultimately it is the municipality that is responsible for that record-keeping end of the legislative compliance. So, based on those numerous exemptions that we've covered, it is certainly possible that it could be a situation where there's seasonal rentals that don't meet the time period requirement. There could be properties with the existing lead safe certificates that the municipality is already responsible for, dealing with. So based upon that due diligence, the municipality will be able to take our list and gain a full picture of what their obligations are under the law. So at this point, we're going to cover a demonstration of the sample property list. We're going to cover the Power BI interactive version of this that we will be releasing to the municipalities at a later date. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Abby Delacruz of our team, and Abby is going to walk us through the interactive version of the sample property list.
Okay, thanks, Gavin. I'll go ahead and share my screen. So hopefully you guys can see the dashboard now. But like Gavin said, my name is Abigail Delacruz. As a data analyst intern, my role involves performing ad hoc analyses and supporting data collection and analysis efforts. So more relevant to today's topic, I helped develop the Municipal Lead Reporting Portal and the Power BI dashboard used to analyze the data from the portal. So here is the dashboard. These are a list of properties we believe fall in the scope of the law. Again, but please do your own due diligence, and that is what this disclaimer says up here. So we could see a table of the properties, and we could also filter by county and municipality. So for example, Burlington County and Burlington Township for the municipality, and we could see that there are 2,211 potentially eligible properties for inspection. We could also see this bar chart, which shows the breakdown by city, and we can click here to see those in Burlington City and Mount Holly as well. So we could see 2 properties in Mount Holly and 2,209 properties in Burlington. And we can also change the order of the table representation. So if right now it's ordered by the year constructed descending, but if we click here, we can also see the earliest dates. And then you could do that with any of the columns in the table. And if you narrow down your search by county and municipality, you are also able to export the data. So if I go here and hit export data, we can see this all in an Excel file. So this is our filtered data. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Gavin.
All right, thank you for that demonstration, Abby. So I'm going to show you the second option that we have prepared for facilitating these lists. So I recognize there might be some challenges with the screen sharing and the resolution. We'll make all these materials available after the presentation for anybody that's having issues seeing this. So this is a PDF-based report. This is one of 564 that we've developed for every municipality, and we'll be working out the logistics of getting these distributed at a later time. But this is very similar to what Abby just showed you on the interactive version. This is a static PDF. So based on the technical bandwidth of some municipal offices, it might be more feasible to just work with a PDF document or print something out that you can just check off as you go. So this contains a static map. So this is Lacey Township, Ocean County. Shout out to Lacey. This provides a heat map of the properties within the boundary of the municipality, showing the relative density of kind of the hotspots for areas that we think municipalities will need to inspect. And then this just provides a static PDF listing of the properties that we believe fall in scope, very similar fields of data as the interactive version. But this just provides another option for municipalities that might prefer a more basic approach to going through the list of properties. So that concludes our demonstration of our options for technical assistance. I want to spend a little bit time taking some time to go over our future roadmap now. So as we've said from the outset, this represents the department's initial iteration of this lead reporting process. Over the next few months, we are going to continue to hold stakeholder engagement meetings and hear from concerns from the folks that are out on the front lines implementing this. We are also monitoring the submissions that come in through this portal to get a sense of what's working and what's not. We're looking at ways of streamlining this as much as possible, taking into account the technical and regulatory limitations that we have to navigate as a state agency. Additionally, one of the most exciting things on our roadmap deals with our lead assistance programs here at the Division of Housing and Community Resources. We work through many of our community-based organizations and grantees that we partner with to do a lot of the on-the-ground work of remediating lead-based paint hazards in New Jersey. So we are going to be operationalizing this data on our end. Again, speaking to our commitment to data-driven decision-making, we are going to use this data to create a feedback loop of receiving the inspection results from municipalities, and then when lead-based paint hazards are found and there are qualifying occupants that qualify for our lead remediation programs, we are going to proactively connect them with the community-based organizations that serve their particular community and use this portal to generate leads to help get people connected with these resources so that no children are facing health challenges as a result of being exposed to lead paint. So this is going to continue to evolve, and we believe believe that the SimplyGov platform that we've built this portal on top of will provide us with a great level of flexibility in turning this into something that's going to, instead of just taking these reports, filing them away for compliance reasons, instead we are going to use this to laser target our efforts to assist our communities. And then there's also going to be additional development of data reports and data products. One concern that we've heard is the ability of this to scale up into larger communities that might have hundreds or even thousands of properties that need to be inspected. So we're looking at ways of periodically generating reports from all of the submissions that come in. And then also looking at ways of generating quarterly billing reports for that statutory $20 fee for each property that municipalities have to inspect and remit to DCA. So we're looking at ways of closing the loop and going from our minimum viable product that we've just launched in July towards a comprehensive feedback loop and reporting mechanism with the goal, tools and technologies are one thing, and we feel we have a solid foundation here. But ultimately, we're here to have a safer, fairer New Jersey by implementing these programs with an eye towards equity. Additionally, we are looking at engaging with the contracted lead inspectors. We've already been having meetings with a few different folks in this space. We hear you that one concern is bulk data upload. I can tell you today, bulk data upload is one of the biggest things that is on our list of priorities for inclusion on a future roadmap. We're looking at, issues in terms of data collection, what fields of data the contractors are collecting in their existing systems, as well as our regulatory need for certain fields of information. So we are in the phase right now where we are evaluating the feasibility of this on both a technical and a policy end. And we are continuing to hold engagement meetings with these inspectors. And if you are one of these folks, say that you have a contractor and you cover multiple towns and you're interested in starting those discussions, we're going to be sharing our contact information at the end of the webinar after we take some questions. We welcome the chance to engage further. A lot of this will hinge upon the technical bandwidth of both the contractors and on our systems as well. So this is going to require careful consideration on our end. But we hear you. This is a priority of ours, and this is something that we're keen on investing further resources in order to build a system that meets everybody's needs. I also want to take another minute to talk about our efforts to build data products with a focus on data for action. So you've already heard about the real-time reporting and visibility that the portal is providing and how we're going to be using this for generating actionable insights. But I truly believe seeing is believing. Again, we're at the very early phase of the development of this initiative. So a lot of the stuff that we might preview for you here today will continue to evolve, and we welcome the chance to evolve it further with your feedback. In future iterations, we're going to be looking to do predictive modeling to predict areas that might be in need in the future based on past data that we're getting and based on the other records that we have. But right now, the kind of low-hanging fruit for us has been real-time visibility of these inspection results so that we can tailor and pivot our state resources to better target areas that are most in need of help. So with an eye towards this, I'm going to pass it to Abby again to demonstrate the real-time reporting dashboard that she has developed for our division to give you an early look at how the department is using data for action in the field of lead-based paint hazards. Abby?
Okay, thank you. I'll share my screen again. So all of the information in this in this dashboard is from the data submitted in the Municipal lead reporting portal, and this is accessible through the same dashboard I previously showed you with potentially eligible properties. So the rest of the dashboard sort of serves as a way to keep track of the submissions that we have received currently. So we have 472 submissions, and we are able to break that down by county and municipality again. So if I select Burlington County and North Hanover Township, for example, we can see the submissions there. We can clear it and get that overview again. We could see the number of inspections submitted over time. So if we hover, we could see on a particular date how many submissions we received, as well as some of the results from those submissions or inspections. So we could see the amount of properties that had lead in them, the amount of certificates issued to properties with lead, and the presence of children in properties with lead. And the same sort of filtering rules apply. So if we click on a certain piece of the pie, we could see the metrics related to that specific attribute. And if we move on to this map page, we could see the submissions that we have by county, by municipality. We can hover over different counties. We could also click on each county and we could see the submissions from the different municipalities within that county. Also, if we wanted to get a larger view of this, we can go up in the corner and hit focus mode, and we could scroll in and out. And again, the same functionality, we can click and we can go back to the report and see a narrowed down version of the metrics. And then there's also a way to zoom in and zoom out and filter by county, municipality, type of property based on the amount of units. Were lead-based paint hazards found in the residence? Yes or no? Was a lead safe certificate issued? Yes or no? Were children present in the residence? Yes or no? So you can all use these together all at once, things like that. And then similar before, we have a table that shows the total inspections by county and municipality, and all of this will also get affected by these filters. So if I hit Burlington County, we could see the totals of the inspections by county and municipality. And then same thing as before, we are able to export the data. So if you hit the dot, 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 export data, you can export this to an Excel sheet and you could see the metrics in that format as well. So we can see these properties. Oh, actually, it's this one. I just showed the one from before, but this is the one from the table that I just exported. And then the same thing applies with this one as well. And then just for context, the last page here is where you would also find the potentially eligible properties page. So that's it for me. I'll pass it off to Gavin again.
Thank you, Abby. So turning back to the remainder of our presentation, I'm going to pass it off to our colleague Leo to say a few words about the lead remediation assistance program and how we're going to be facilitating this program through the data we receive in the portal.
Thank you, Gavin. And just building upon the statement that Gavin makes that we're not here for only collecting data for compliance, but more data for action, I'm here to talk a little bit about our lead remediation assistance program, the LRAP program. So in the fiscal year 2023 budget, the Murphy administration committed $180 million to address the ongoing threat of childhood lead poisoning. These funds have been allocated to community-based organizations and units of local government to conduct lead-safe repairs, energy efficiency improvements in residential units containing 1 to 4 units. So usually every year we only have about $5 to $10 million And in this past fiscal year, we received a overwhelming $180 million. So we're here to say we do have resources to help those landlords and households and tenants that do meet our programmatic requirements. So here down below, we have a couple of program requirements. Of course, first, that the property was built prior to 1978. Second, of course, that property has to have lead-based paint hazards. Third is that the property contains no more than 4 residential units. And then a couple other ones is that the property is free from structural issues. And then lastly, because this is a state grant program, we have income requirements. And our current income requirements are that the household, which is the tenant that actually resides within the unit and not the landlord, is that they do not exceed 80% of the area median income. With our program, we do also provide services to vacant units as long as the property or the landlord provides and promises that they rent out to a programmatically eligible household for those vacant units, because we do understand that within the cyclical inspections or upon tenant turnover, the unit will be vacant at that current point. For any additional information, please visit leadabatement.nj.gov for additional information about the program, what we provide, as well as the list of municipalities, grantees, and nonprofit organizations that we do provide funding to. And also, just going back to what Abby was showing off, for the data that is currently entered within the portal, just to let you guys know that for those properties or units that have been identified with lead-based paint hazards, that a lead safe certificate was not issued to. I believe currently we have about 7 or 9. We are sending those out on the back end to our grantee organizations that provide services within those areas, so they are able to reach out to those landlords or households to say, hey, we have this lead remediation and abatement program, and these are practically free grant dollars for us to provide lead remediation and or abatement within that particular unit. So for folks that are collecting information and putting that into the portal, as Gavin said, we're really utilizing this data for action and not just for compliance and reporting. So we're able to connect those dots and be able to feed within our program to be able to connect to those households to the services that are needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. We appreciate the information on that program, and the LRAP program really is a tremendous resource with that $180 million commitment. So eligible landlords and tenants, I really encourage you to take advantage of that. So this brings us to our question and answer session. I realize that there's probably a lot of questions. So the way we're going to handle this is go ahead and use the raise hand feature in Teams to indicate that you'd like to ask a question, and then we're going to have Abby call on you and unmute you, and feel free to ask your question. So Abby?
Sure. While we wait for people to get their hands up, do you want to go through some of the questions that we have in the chat first?
Yeah, you know what? Since they've been waiting, I think it would only be fair.
Okay, great. So the first one we got was, can you please define permanent construction agency?
I think we'll defer to Marie on that.
Yep, I can jump in on that. So the way it was defined in the law was permanent local agency means a local municipal agency maintained for the purpose of conducting inspections and enforcing laws, ordinances, and regulations concerning buildings and structures within its jurisdiction. So as we were working on the implementation process, once this law was signed, throughout different meetings and different discussions, it's not really just limited to a construction agency, because other agencies do have the authority to enter into buildings and enforce laws. So we added into the regulations that while it could include building agencies, it can also include local health agencies and housing agencies. So it really is any permanently established local agency that has the authority to enter into buildings to perform inspections. We do see a shakedown throughout towns where it is basically kind of an even split between building departments and housing departments, particularly if a building department already did tenant turnover inspections, because there are a lot of municipalities that already were doing basically as a property maintenance inspection, tenant turnover inspections. So that's how it's defined in the law, and I can copy and paste that definition into the chat if it's helpful.
Thank you, Marie.
Yep.
Great. So we have this one. Property owners have contracted privately and sent us the fee and certificate. So do we still need to enter the info, or would the contractor do so?
So on that one, I think that might be something we might have to look into future refinements to the portal. My understanding, unless I'm wrong, Marie, is that the obligation for the reporting is ultimately on the municipalities. So we're looking at ways of facilitating contractors to be able to do that on their behalf. But ultimately, we would still be interested in that data.
Yeah, so the way the law is written currently, it is ultimately a municipal responsibility, but understanding a lot of municipalities have contracts with other lead evaluation contractors to undertake this work, I think it only makes sense that really what we'd ultimately be interested in is somebody is reporting on this municipality's behalf. So I think that, you may need to work out, okay, well, on which end are we reporting this, just so there's not a duplication of efforts. But ultimately, I think as long as someone reports it, you've met what you need to meet.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we may not know if children are present. We only collect the certificate. Can unknown be added as an option?
Yeah, so we'll definitely take that under advisement for our next round of refinements to the portal.
Okay. And I've seen a lot of questions about accessing the materials. So can you just clarify where people can find everything when this meeting is over?
Yes, certainly. So again, recognizing some of our challenges with the limitations in the state's IT department. So, we're looking to get these lists up on the public-facing site. We just have some final review processes to go through to get the live dashboard link actually up on the site. But for any municipalities that are interested in kind of getting a head start, I would welcome you to reach out to our lead law reporting mailbox. It's I'll put it in the chat. It's lead law reporting at dca.nj.gov. And if you request your town's list via email there, we'd be happy to send it to you directly in the meantime. But what we're going to do at the conclusion of this webinar, we're going to make the recording available, and we have the email addresses of all participants. We'll be sending out some additional links and resources after the webinar where you'll be able to get that information in the near future.
Great. Okay. I think, Marie, you answered this question in the chat, but just for everyone listening, I'll have you answer it here as well. Does DCA have a list of properties that they inspect on the 5-year cyclical inspection? And if the DCA has inspected the property for at least 10 years?
We do have that list. Of course, as you both noted in your area of the presentation too, it is not completely comprehensive. I've dropped the link below. What that does is it pulls up a list of the municipalities. You can filter by county and then again by city, just like with the other presentations you've seen. We used our electronic records. Of course, we first went electronic in 2014. So there were a few instances that we've seen happening where the paper documents were unable to be converted into the electronic format. So for some of those buildings, they have been registered for longer than 10 years. Our records just start at some point in 2014 based on that conversion. So in those instances, it's good to follow up with the owners of the multiple dwelling because they may be able to show you proof of the registry that dates back prior to 10 years ago. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to the division. I mean, there's usually times where I'm able to look through the inspection records and see if they've been registered for longer than 10 years. So it's It's a pretty extensive list. It's pretty comprehensive, but I have seen a few outliers.
All right, thank you. So moving on, does the state have some timeline on how these lead remediation inspections will impact zoning, planning board, specifically how it would affect municipal land use approvals?
I can kind of take a stab at that. I mean, I guess insofar as to say that I don't really know that it has an impact. In my experience, from what I've discussed with people, I don't think it typically has any land use impacts. These are typically interior projects because this law only inspects interior features. So as far as I know, there really shouldn't be any delays through the zoning side of things. I could be incorrect, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Okay. Some fees may have been missed initially, but the certificate has been received. Is that an issue?
I would pass that to Marie again. I'm not really sure from our end.
That is one that I will probably have to take back and ask some of the policy people how we want to go about. I know that, in trying to step up this law, it was a mad rush for a lot of municipalities, so getting their feet under them was an issue initially. That's something we're definitely still in discussions with for how we should handle any inspections that occurred kind of prior to a full understanding of how the surcharges were supposed to work. And when we have more information on that, that's definitely something that would go out as a municipal blast. We would probably have information sessions on that as well. So that's something I can only really say stay tuned for the time being.
Thank you.
Okay, where is the $20 fee sent, and is there a report that needs to accompany the fee?
So for that, I am going to copy and paste into the chat when we initially did webinars, when we started rolling out the requirements for this law. We established where the check should be submitted to. That's available on our website. I'll copy and paste the answer and also a link to our overall Q&A website. The fee is remitted quarterly, and really what this portal intends to do is become the reporting requirement that would kind of back up the reports received. Because of course, if you're getting a $20 surcharge, each of those properties should be reflected in the reporting that you submit online.
Thank you, Marie.
Okay, and why was a 2-year cycle chosen for this law?
So I'll just say briefly, our role at the department, we implement and operationalize. So it's not really our role to set these timeframes aside when we're doing implementing regulations. When there's statutory timelines that are put into law, we don't really have a say on that. So I don't mean to be curt, but for that question, you'd have to take it up with the legislature because they're the one that put that timeline in the law.
Okay, what happens if the inspectors are not certified with conducting lead-based inspections?
So there is an exemption in 5:17, and that's the state lead hazard abatement code, which allows for municipal inspectors to be able to undertake this work without the certification. However, of course, if you're not utilizing a municipal inspector, then they would have to be certified. There is a small caveat to that where for municipal inspectors, although they don't need to be certified lead evaluation contractors, they would need to have undertaken HUD's visual assessment training or have undertaken dust wipe technician training, depending on what the requirements are for the town, whether they're a visual town or a dust wipe town. The link that I sent with the all webinar questions does maintain links for those trainings.
Okay, can the inspection be visual only?
That depends. There is a listing on our webpage. Of course, we get information from the Department of Health on the percentage of children that have tested with an elevated blood lead level. If it's under 3% of the children tested that have that elevated blood lead level, then the inspections can be a visual assessment. If it's over 3% of children with an elevated blood lead level, then it has to be a dust wipe inspection. The rules do also allow for towns that are classified as a visual assessment town to undertake dust wipes as their baseline. That was done because some towns were concerned that visual wouldn't quite cover the scope that they wanted to address.
You discuss flexibility with inspection deadline of July 2024?
So that, in a similar vein to what Gavin said earlier, that was a legislatively established deadline, so we can't really speak of any flexibility to it. The legislature established it as a legal requirement. What I will say is that, you know, our main goal in all of these laws, in carrying out these laws, is compliance. So what we would like to see is an effort to compliance. I understand that, you know, towns have needed to get their feet under them to work through getting up to speed with this law. And I've said the same thing to owners and landlords who have said that they can't get somebody out until August. What we want to see is that you are on the path to compliance. The legislature set this deadline. This deadline was set when the law was passed in 2021 and effective in 2022. So at this point, the path to compliance is really the most important piece of this.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Many landlords have had lead-free inspections, and the portal only has an option for lead safe is yes or no. Can lead-free be added to the portal question?
That's something we're definitely willing to take under advisement for future refinements to the portal. So, you know, we're happy to consider that.
Great. If a municipality has its own UCC subcode and local property maintenance inspectors, is it not permitted to contract with a third party?
So interestingly, the way the law is written currently, it does state that the permanent local agency must undertake the inspections. We understand that there are amendments to the lead law that are currently undergoing the legislative process that would allow for contracting with with permanent local agencies to go for a lead evaluation contractor, and it would recognize any currently entered into contracts. So technically, the way the law is written currently, the towns are meant to be undertaking these inspections. However, understand that there is legislation in motion that would allow for contracting.
Okay. With this new law, it has placed a strain on small departments. Is the state looking to find municipalities, or is the plan to work with the limited resources that they have?
Well, I think I would echo Marie's earlier comments that, you know, the goal is having a path towards compliance. We recognize that there might be challenges, whether it's staff bandwidth or technology wise, and I can't commit to anything at this point, but for those smaller towns that have challenges, there may be some further options for assistance on our end. But really, we're not looking to be punitive at this point. At this point, we're looking to get everybody kind of rowing the boat in the same direction with an eye towards compliance. Marie, I don't know if you had anything else to add to that.
No, I agree. I mean, listen, the penalties are there. I don't want to set the impression that we're just saying everybody ignore the penalties. The penalties are a system that were put in place by the law that the department can levy against a town. And I'm not trying to come in and say we're going to swing the hammer because, again, the goal is compliance. And what you often see is that even when penalties are issued, there are times where often if there's a path towards compliance, those fees become something that's taken into consideration where, say, you are completely delinquent in these inspections and you haven't made an effort and a penalty is issued. If you show that there is a schedule to getting these inspections done, typically then the penalties start to come down accordingly. So it definitely isn't the goal of the department ever to be issuing penalties against towns. We understand, especially when it comes to staffing, that a penalty on top of that doesn't really help get the work done. So compliance is always the greatest option, but the penalties are in the law. Now, I did just want to point out, I have a hard drop-off time at 11 a.m. I have a different meeting to hop onto. So I'm also going to leave our email for questions for under this law so that everybody has that as a resource in case you need me after I drop off.
Thank you, Marie.
All right. Is there a way that we can see whether a property has already been entered by the certified DCA lead evaluator before we do ahead in entering the info?
So again, speaking to the current iteration of the portal as kind of our minimum viable product, we do not have that functionality available yet, but we appreciate the feedback and we're certainly willing to add this to our list for future improvements.
Okay, we have been sending a list in a we've been sending in a list of rental dwellings every month to DCA with a $20 fee per unit. Will DCA be entering those rental dwellings into the portal since we already submitted the list of residential rental dwellings?
So on this one, we're going to have to take a look into this a little bit further. Our understanding at this point is that the electronic submission process will be our expectation for how things are submitted moving forward. In terms of some of those past submissions and whether they'll be entered, I'm not really in a position to comment on that right now, but we definitely hear your concern there.
If I am certified through the EPA for lead abatement, is that sufficient?
Marie?
I believe that since New Jersey is its own regulatory body for lead, that you would also have to have the DCA lead evaluation contractor certification, which involves the lead inspector risk assessor certification through DOH as well. So I believe that EPA is not reciprocal for us.
Thanks, Marie.
Okay, the BHI already charged $20 per unit when state inspection is done every 5 years. Do we still have to charge $20 for those multiple dwellings?
If they are not otherwise exempt from this law, then yes.
Okay. Does it make a difference if all municipality inspectors are part-time?
It does not. This law didn't differentiate between, permanent local agency doesn't even have to do with the hours that staff is working. It's just that the local agency was established in that town. Something that's not a permanent local agency would be like one of the offices where the department covers the UCC office, because technically it's not permanent. The municipality could choose to establish their own office at a later date. So permanent doesn't really have to do with working hours so much as its form of establishment.
Okay. Many municipalities have adopted ordinances allowing the property owner to select the municipal inspection or the property owner coordinates with an approved lead paint inspector. So do those ordinances need to be rescinded?
Those ordinances do not need to be rescinded. The law does always allow for the owner's option to choose a lead evaluation contractor to perform the inspection. So those ordinances are completely fine if you're just establishing that you have an option between the municipal inspector or you can choose to have a lead evaluation contractor. That option is always open to landlords.
Thank you, Marie. So I think that goes through all of our questions in the chat. For those of you that have been raising your hands, we see you. Abby, why don't we call on one of those folks next and let them unmute?
Abby, before you go, because I know Marie does have a hard stop at 11, we want to keep the questions specific to the lead reporting portal. I know we're getting a lot of codes related questions. I know Marie did drop the email for the codes related questions into the chat. So at this time, I'm going to ask for the folks that have their hand raised. If you have a codes related question, if you can drop your hand and email the lead law 21 PL 182 at dca.nj.gov for your particular lead law related questions, because I know we have very few minutes with Marie.
Thank you, Leo.
Okay, great. So first I'm going to call on James Norgalis. I think you should be able to unmute yourself here.
Can anybody hear me?
Yep.
Sweet. Portal related. Can you email out the hyperlink to access the portal
Sure.
so I can actually look at some of the information? Because we've had a lot of people choose their own contractors, but I need to know whether the contractor input the stuff into the state. I don't want to duplicate efforts. I have a very small department. If it's already in the system, I don't think it needs to go in again.
Yes, definitely. So we put the portal link in the chat here for you, and then every time someone enters something through this portal, it does send an automatically generated confirmation email. So if you know somebody else is entering it, they should have those emails as the proof of their submission.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, James.
Great. Next we have Pine Hill. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, so we've been doing these inspections for the last, I'll say roughly like a year and a half. We got a little bit of a late start. So we shouldn't, my understanding, I'm just confirming that we should go back into the portal now and enter everything that we've already accomplished.
So if you're able to do that, that would be great. I think really, in terms of our method going forward, the default model will be to enter everything in. But if you are in a position to be able to do that, we would appreciate getting everything through that portal, recognizing that there may have been different collections, different collection methods for this data prior to the rollout.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Brian Miller.
Good morning. All right, bye, Marie. Good seeing you. Hey, quick question on the portal. I'll be specific to that. Is there an option / ability to upload a copy of a PDF of a lead safe certificate? I have very few in Plainsboro, but I do have a few.
Thanks for your question, Brian. So presently, we do not have that option in the portal. It is something that we're evaluating for future inclusion. We don't have that there now just because we're looking at eventually being able to generate the certificate through this portal and kind of having it be a one-stop shop. So as much as we want to be able to accommodate every feature request, we kind of have to balance that against our roadmap. But I hear what you're saying. We're definitely interested in the feedback, and we'll take that under advisement.
All right. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Next we have Andrew Cheney.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. Brian answered half my question in regards to private contractors. Most of our people here use the private contractors. So the fee that's collected is $20. Did they have to submit that, or do we have to try to track them down to get that $20 from them? Because a lot of times it's a property manager that delivers the inspection to us, not the actual owner or landlord.
Yeah, again, I think we would have to defer to codes on that. I know Marie talked a little bit about the process for remitting that. At this point, we're strictly dealing with portal-related questions, so unfortunately, I'm not really in a position to comment on that at this time.
Okay, I'll send it in through that email, through that link then. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, next we have Dana DeBella.
Good morning. Sorry. Once the properties are uploaded as lead free, is that going to disappear from your database?
So that's a good question, Dana. So right now, our form just handles basic reporting. We're not really looking stuff up on the back end. Taking into account, once that lead safe certificate is generated, I believe it's a 2-year period that they're exempt from inspection. So right now they do not disappear from the database, but I hear what you're saying. That's a great idea for our future roadmap, and we'll definitely take that into consideration.
Okay, and then I have one more question for the lead-free dashboard. Is that public or is that going to be for municipalities only? I'm just wondering if a homeowner will be able to access their inspection date without needing assistance from the municipality to get that information.
Right. That's a great idea. So at this point, what we've demoed right now today was kind of a window into our internal reporting that we've been running to kind of demonstrate aspirationally where we're moving with this. We anticipate once we've worked through the approval processes and technical logistics on our end that we will be able to offer a version of this that will be publicly accessible. Certainly, my office believes in sharing what we can when we can. So if this is something that we're able to accommodate and make this more user friendly to reduce burdens on the municipalities end, we're certainly open to considering that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Next we have Amy Greenspan.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you.
I guess the question I have is, I noticed that when you were going through the sample of how to do the submission, certain things had the asterisks that are required, but some of that information, as some people had said, especially the information like if there are children present, we don't have available, and we might not have that coming in for a while for some people because they're not aware they have to submit it. Are we going to be able to submit the information we have without having that required information?
Right. So I understand your concern. And I can tell you, what the challenge on our end is thinking, in designing this portal, we wanted to build something that kind of captured the minimum essential elements. I know, that we're particularly interested in whether children are present. So I hear what you're saying in terms of the lack of availability. Maybe we need to add some additional options for data not collected or not available. Again, we've lost Marie, but, we will be doing a rulemaking and creating regulations in the future where, we'll kind of tighten up exactly what's required and what's not. So we are definitely keenly interested in whether children are present. But I hear what you're saying, and we'll definitely take that into account in terms of our future roadmap for refinements to this. Thanks for the question.
But for now, will it allow us to submit anything at that moment, or is it kind of going to block us from doing that?
For now, it's a yes or no question. So,
Okay.
There's not really any flexibility in terms of the way it's written now.
Mhm.
But we're open to evaluating on our end if that's something that can be adjusted on our end.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Hightstown Borough Construction.
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Can the town charge an additional fee beyond $20?
So again, that's more of a codes related question and not really a portal question. So we can't get into that in depth right now.
Okay.
But my understanding right now is that there is some flexibility. So the $20 is the statutory fee that that DCA collects per every one of these inspections. In terms of the municipality's engagement with the contractor and what that fee structure might look like, I believe the law is pretty silent. But again, I'm not an expert on that. I would encourage you to do your own due diligence or reach out to the Division of Codes and Standards for clarification for anything pertaining to that end of things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think those are all our questions right now.
Okay, great. So I see there was one other question in the chat. Will we receive a copy of this training? Yes. After the conclusion of the webinar, we're going to make both a recording available as well as the slides. We'll be following up with a roadmap for future improvements. We're continuing to hold our stakeholder engagement sessions with both municipal and lead contractor partners, so please feel free to reach out. In the near future, we'll be sending out emails with links to some of these additional resources, including the maps and stuff. So please stay tuned. I'm going to share our contact information. If there's any questions or concerns from anybody on the call here today, it's been a pleasure speaking with all of you and learning about your engagement with the portal. We thank you in advance for your future cooperation with these initiatives. And each and every one of you on the call today, we consider you partners in ensuring the New Jersey. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and please stay tuned for future developments. Thanks, everybody.